Hello everyone, Parallel here, and welcome to Star Trek Online. In this video, I am going to be doing a review of the Klingon Tier 6 Fleet Mata Raptor. As you can see from the name, this is a Raptor class ship. That means it basically falls somewhere between a escort and a cruiser. It is more maneuverable than a cruiser, but not quite as maneuverable as an escort. And also, as far as hull and shielding go, it is a little bit tougher than a typical escort, but not quite up to a cruiser tankiness. So that is basically where a Raptor falls. Pretty similar to, I guess, what I would compare it to would be a destroyer class ship. The Raptors, I would say, probably focus more on forward firepower, I think, more than destroyers. That's kind of their unique trait, is that Raptors pretty much sacrifice everything for forward firepower. And that is, as you will see as I'm going through the build, you can see that is definitely the focus of this build and the playstyle I will be using for this ship. Now, the Mata Raptor is actually a pretty old ship now. It actually initially came out with the release of Delta Rising. It was one of the first Tier 6 ships to come out with the Intel seating. And it has actually held up very, very well over time, even receiving a few buffs. The console that it came with was buffed, and a fleet version came out actually quite a few months after the original, so there was no fleet version of this ship for quite a while. And so here it is. And so what I'd like to do is go through my build for this ship, show all the specifics, my gear, bridge officer layout, duty officers, and everything. Show what you can do with the ship in the ship tailor. I will also show the Admiralty card for the ship, which is actually a pretty good Admiralty card. And then finally, take this out for a test drive in an ISA run and in Argala patrol. And that way you'll be able to actually see how this performs in battle. I will be running a parser, just to make sure that I will record all of the damage output the ship does and do a quick review of that after the run, and you can kind of see a breakdown of where the damage lies and you know, what kind of performance you could expect. Alright, but before we get too far into the build, I would just like to start out by saying that, you know, building a starship is a very personal thing. It very much depends on your playstyle. And so just as a disclaimer here, this is just a build that I like to use that I think fits this ship well. But you know, there are many builds you can fit on this ship, and it can be quite successful. So just keep in mind I'm showing you the build that I like to use, and you know, at the end you will see how this build performs and what you can expect. But again, there are a lot of variety to builds, and you choose the build that works best for you. So let's dive in here. Before we get into the build, I want to quickly just show how you get this ship. Now, like I said, this ship is quite old. It's been out for a while now. What you want to do is go into the C-Store, pull up the Tier 6 ships, and you'll see here the Mata Raptor. This is the C-Store version of the ship, which I initially bought. This is you'll want to get this to get the console and the starship trait in any case. And then once you've bought the C-Store version of the ship, all you have to do is get a single fleet module, and then you'll be able to go to the starship requisition officer, and then you can buy yourself the fleet version of the ship, because if you own the C-Store version, the fleet version only costs one fleet module. So let's run through the stats of the ship. And as you can see here, the hull strength is 37,900 at 50 and 44,000 at 60, so pretty good. Again, not quite up to cruiser levels, but 44,000 is a pretty strong hull. And let's see here, we got a shield modifier of 0.85, a crew of 200, and it's got the signature Raptor 5 forward, 2 aft weapons layout, so very much focused on the forward firepower. 2 device slots. The bridge officer's layout is 1 lieutenant tactical, 1 commander tactical, so you got 6 tactical slots right there. You've got a lieutenant commander engineering, which is pretty good. It gives you some flexibility on your engineering seats. You got your 1 lieutenant science / intel and 1 lieutenant universal. So this is where the flexibility of the ship comes in. You have 1 lieutenant universal and this lieutenant science intel. The intel As you can see here, it's only a lieutenant, which is a little bit unfortunate, but this is your, basically you get 2 intel slots that you can work with here. And you'll see in my build how I actually slot these bridge officer seats. The console layout is a 5 tactical, 3 engineering, 2 science. The base turn rate is 15 degrees per second, so again, a little bit less than an escort, but still quite good. Still definitely enough to maneuver to bring your forward weapons to bear on most targets without a problem. Impulse modifier of 0.2. You got plus 15 power to weapons, so basically all weapon power. And it can use cannons, and it comes with a cloaking device. And the console. Now, this is definitely one of the strengths of this ship, the Heavy Disruptor Spinal Cannon. This is a very nice console. And I will show you that when we go through the equipment on this build. Now keep in mind this is actually the C-Store version. The Fleet version that I am using will of course have a 10% higher hull and shield modifier, and it will have an additional console slot, and I believe it is, yeah, it's additional engineering console slot, so it'll actually have 4 engineering consoles on the Fleet version. Alright, so that is an overview of the ship. Actually, let's head down here to the requisition officer, and you can quickly see where is the requisition guy? Is it this guy? Yeah. You can actually see what is the, let's go to tier 6, and we'll take a look. Actually, I might be able to just go right to, oh, there's actually Fleet tier 6. Let's go right here. Here we go. Fleet Mach-Tau Raptor. So there you go. You got the 4 engineering consoles, and base hull of 48,000. So again, even a little bit better, and a shield modifier of 0.94. So a little bit better than the base C-Store version. And you can see here what it takes: 1 fleet module, assuming you have the C-Store version, and 20,000 fleet credits. It does also require that your fleet that you're in be a tier 3 starbase, I believe. Yeah, tier 3 starbase. So that is what you need to get the fleet version, which is what I will be showing in this video in action. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the build here itself. So what equipment I will be running on this. So again, this is a 5 forward layout, so you definitely lends itself to either going for a dual beam bank forward, or you could also run cannons. Cannons would definitely be a viable build on this. I'm not a big user of cannons myself, just due to the limitation, in particular the range drop off for cannons kind of holds me back from using them. But I went with dual beams in this build. And as you can see, this is a disruptor build. So I'm running here dual disruptor beam banks, and I'm using the damage 3 pen modifier. I think some of these, yeah, some of these do have a crit D in there as well, but yeah, crit D, oh, that one has a crit H as well. But you can see the modifiers I'm running there. Not perfect mods, but all with a pen and some variation of crit damage, or yeah, crit D or just damage. I am also running the Iconian space set. In this case, I'm running a 3-piece. So I'm running the deflector array here, the engines, impulse engines, and the shield. They're all at Mark 14. And the reason I'm running the 3-piece Iconian set is for the set bonus, which is the energy augmentation actuator, which gives you a very, very nice team buff, which is whenever you're firing energy weapons, you have a 5% chance for a buff, stacking buff up to 3 times. That gives you plus 15% to all energy damage for 8 seconds, and it goes to all allies within 10 kilometers. Very, very nice 3-piece set bonus, which is basically why I'm loving the Iconian space set. The pieces themselves are actually quite good as well. The shields in particular are very nice. They have the hot restart for bringing the shields back online if they go offline. Very, very nice. Now for my warp core, I'm using the Elite Fleet Plasma Integrated Warp Core. I've been looking at investing into the Iconian Warp Core. If you can get that up to ultra rare, I believe it does get the amp bonus as well, which would make it a good warp core, and the 4-piece Iconian set bonus is also very quite nice. So That is another alternative you could use here. The Terran Warp Core might have some possibilities. I'm looking to invest into that as well and test that out. But for now, I'm still using the Elite Fleet Plasma Integrated Warp Core. This is kind of my go-to warp core, in particular because it has the drain to your weapon power system. So when your weapons are firing, it reduces the amount of power that is drained from your system. Higher weapon power means more damage during your firing cycle. So very good warp core. It also gives you some EPS, and the one I'm using here with the mod also goes weapons to aux, so it keeps my aux power high, which is nice. So that is the warp core I will be using. Now in the aft weapons, I'm using the kinetic cutting beam and the omnidirectional disruptor beam array. You can see the mods there. Since this is a disruptor build, I'm just using these two. Since this is a forward-firing build, and I'm using disruptors, that's why I went with the omnidirectional disruptor beam and then the kinetic cutting beam. That means that both of these are omnidirectional. They can all both fire forward. And the kinetic cutting beam is also nice because it is part of the two-piece set with the assimilated console right down here. A very, very good two-piece set, and it's also very easy to get if you are starting out and you want to, I didn't mean to do that, I mean to get info on this. If you are just starting out and you're looking for some good console set bonus to go for, the Borg kinetic cutting beam and assimilated module from the Omega reputation is a very, very good set to invest in. It will last you a very long time, and it comes with the two-piece set bonus, which is right here, the Omega weapon amplifier. You definitely want this. It is a very good two-piece set. There are some builds with enough power reduction where this might not be needed, but it's still a very good set even now. It has a 2.5% chance to give you this Omega weapon amplifier buff, and what it does is it gives you plus 10 current weapon power and then 500 current weapon power resistance rating and maximum weapon power resistance rating. Basically, it gives you a massive reduction to how much power your weapons drain when they're firing. Again, if you reduce the amount of weapon drain while they're firing, that's good at keeping your weapon power up and your damage up during the firing cycle. So very, very good proc. And honestly, the kinetic cutting beam is, it's pretty good on its own, and the assimilated module is not bad because it comes with a crit chance and a crit severity in there. Not as good as like the low buy console, but still decent, and pretty easy to invest into. Don't take too much reputation or resources to build these two pieces. And it's a good thing to shoot for right when you are, right when you get to level 60. For devices, I'm using a Temporal Negotiator. This is from the Delta Recruit event. And then the Subspace Field Modulator, which you get through the story quests. It was one of the Davidian story quests. You get this. Now, here we go. This is the console that comes with the ship. This console is amazing now. So, originally this console would give you would just give you the heavy disruptor Spinal cannon, which already was a very, very good ability. But now they recently buffed it to also have a passive effect to give a plus 15 to disruptor damage. So that's also very good. So it's very nice now. That's also why I wanted to focus on a disruptor-based build, because this Spinal cannon does disruptor damage, and it also buffs passively disruptor damage. So as you can see, the Fleet Mod Tau Raptor really does lend itself to a disruptor-based build. I also put in here the Regenerative Integrity Field. This is the console you get with the Samsar Cruiser, which is a very nice console for survivability. It gives you some hull healing, and then it also has a clicking ability, which gives you a very large hull heal on demand. And then also for 10 seconds, or no, for 20 seconds after that, it gives you 100% of your directed energy damage as healing, which if you're putting out a lot of DPS, this gives you a lot of healing for that 20 seconds. So it's a very, very good console. Although it's pretty much impossible to get at this point if you don't have a Samsar Cruiser. hopefully at some point in the future they'll release it maybe as a low-buy console or something, because this particular console really is very good on a lot of builds, and it should be available. In my opinion, it really should be available to everybody. I'm also running the Plasmonic Leech. Very key console in almost every build out there because it provides your subsystems with a lot of power. You can see here it drains 1 power from the target and grants 1 power to all of your subsystems. Now this actually stacks 8 times, and with flow cap skill, it scales with the flow cap skill. You can get this up to actually giving you, if you max out your flow caps, that'll give you basically 2 power. It'll drain 2 power from them and grant 2 power to you to all of your subsystems, giving you a total of 16 power to all of your subsystems. So just a very, very good console. You can even get it past that if you really invest into your flow caps. The assimilated module is also here. And I already went over that one, but it's very nice for the 2-piece bonus and the crit chance and severity. Now for the science consoles, you only get 2. And what I'm running here is I do run one of the plasma generating weapon signature nullifiers. These are basically the embassy consoles that give you a plasma explosion proc to all of your energy weapons. These are honestly have been nerfed a few times. They're still quite good though for a science console. There's not a lot of other good science consoles you can put in there that would increase DPS, and this is still one of the better ones for doing that. So this is still a very good console. You can see I have it up to Epic Mark 14. Now, the other slot here, I'm also using the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. You get this from one of the Iconian featured episodes, and it's a reward. So after you run that episode, you get this as a reward. And this is also a very nice console because you can see it gives you aux power. It gives you 22.5% max shield capacity, and it also gives you a scaling crit chance and crit severity buff, and reduces damage to shields by 3. This is a really very nice console. Has some good defensive capabilities because of the shield capacity and resistance, and also some good offense capabilities. As long as you're running a high auxiliary power, you can actually get a 2.5% crit chance and a 10% crit severity, which is not bad at all. So kind of with the recent nerfs to the embassy consoles, I've kind of been liking to slot this just because it's great. It's a good alternative to an embassy console, and it gives you both offense and defense. Now for the tactical consoles, I'm just running the tactical vulnerability locators with plus disruptor damage. You've got basically each one of these. You get these from your from the Fleet Spire. And Tier 3 Fleet Spire, you can go to your Fleet Spire and purchase these. They are pretty expensive as far as the number of fleet credits. I think they're 50,000 fleet credits each. So you gotta farm up some fleet credits to get these. But the nice thing is that they each give you a 1.8% crit chance and a 35.6% buff to your disruptor damage. And these stack up 5 times. So I got 5 of them in here. So that is the equipment I will be using. As you can see, definitely a very much forward-firing focused build, but with some survivability. I do have, the regenerative integrity field in here. I do have the disentanglement suite in here, so a little bit of survivability to complement this. Since I do usually run in pickup groups, I do like to have a little bit of survivability. When you're putting out so much damage, you do get a lot of aggro in pickup groups. You're not running with a dedicated tank or anything like that. So you need to have a little bit of survivability on your own ship. Quickly, while we're here, I would like to show the masteries for this ship. Now you can see this is the fleet version, so it doesn't have the 5th mastery, which is the starship trait. I will show that real quick because I also have the C-Store version. I can show you what trait you get. It's not an incredibly impressive trait, but quickly here, as far as the masteries go, you get +5 accuracy, +5 defense, +5 to all energy damage and kinetic damage, and then finally you get 2.5% additional crit chance. So a nice little well-rounded set of masteries there. Good crit chance, all damage, and then a little bit of defense to go with that accuracy and a little bit of defense. So not bad at all for the masteries. Now the actual ship trait, which is called Overwhelming Force, I believe. Yes, here it is, Overwhelming Force. As you can see here, it basically gives you a what is it? Not charge a photonic shock wave to your high yield torpedoes and a charged particle burst to your beam overloads. This, could be situationally useful if you use, high yield torpedo or beam overload. I don't use either of those on this build, so I don't actually use this trait on this build, but that is the trait that you get with this ship. Alright, so quickly I will just show my skills. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. One thing I do like to mention is that since I'm here on my Klingon side, this is my engineering alt. So one thing that as an engineer captain you always want to keep in mind is you want to take advantage and get the starship batteries skill at least up to rank 3. The reason why is that one of the engineering character traits that you can get, personal traits, is this one right here, which is EPS manifold efficiency. And basically when you use this, it gives you +10 to all of your subsystem power for 15 seconds. And this is whenever you use an emergency power to anything ability, so auxiliary, engines, shields, or weapons. If you use any of those abilities, this will trigger and give you +10 to all subsystems. Now the nice thing is that having the battery skill actually enhances that ability. So basically this will make it last longer. So it'll make this trait last longer when it procs. Trait, where'd you go? EPS manifold. So make this last longer. Basically, with 3 ranks, it will make it last about 30 seconds, which is the duration of the emergency power abilities. So it's basically perfect for engineering builds when you use this. As long as you're always using emergency power ability, it will trigger this and will take advantage of the battery skill and make it so that that 10 power to each of your subsystems is basically up pretty much 100% of the time. So that's just one skill I like to point out with engineers. Normally for other characters, unless you have a red matter capacitor, it's not really worth investing into starship batteries, but for engineers it is because of that trait. You can see here also just a pretty standard build. I do of course invest into flow caps to make sure I get the most out of my plasmonic leech, and invested pretty much all into energy weapons here, nothing into projectiles. For specializations, I am spec'd out into almost fully maxed out into Intel, and Pilot is also fully maxed out, which is very nice. The new Admiralty system is very nice for getting specialization XP, so I've been able to make some good progress there thanks to Admiralty. Alright, so let's take a look at the traits here. Now as you can see, this is taking place after the recent change where they have split ground and space traits, which is a very nice change. So all my ground traits are up here, but since I'll be testing the ship out, you'll want to take a look at my space traits. So what I'm going to be running as far as space traits, I'm using Coalition Starship Tactics. It gives you some little buffs here based on your team makeup. Engineers give you more shield regen, science give you hull healing, tactical give you a 3% flight speed and defense. This is per captain type in your group. So a very nice change, or not? Very nice little ability. This is a recent lockbox trait that's pretty affordable, so you can get this pretty cheap. I'm also using Elusive for plus 10% defense. And the reason why I'm interested in these traits in particular, the defense is actually useful. And that's because I'm running the reciprocity trait. When I get down there to the starship traits, you'll see why. But I do like to have a little bit of extra defense. I'm also running the operative trait. This is also a recent addition, which basically gives you 1% crit chance and 2% crit severity. I'm running the beam training trait, which just gives you a flat out 5% beam weapon damage. Since I'm running mostly all beams, that is a good trait. There is also a similar cannon trait, so if you're running cannons on this ship, you could use that trait. This ship really is a very good cannon ship, honestly. If you wanted to do with a cannon build, I'm sure it could make it work. I'm also running the Beam Barrage trait. This one gives you +2 damage to all beams, to beam damage when you activate any of the beam skills. In particular, if you use Beam Fire at Will, it will also give you this, and it stacks up 3 times, so a total of 6% to your beam damage. Just make sure you keep using your Beam Fire at Will on cooldown, and this should be up pretty much permanent because it lasts for 30 seconds, which is longer than the cooldown on Beam Fire at Will. The EPS manifold efficiency I already went through. This gives you the 10% to all of your subsystem power, and when you're using the emergency power 2 abilities and the battery skill, it keeps it up pretty much permanent. Very nice trait. I'm also using the Fleet Coordinator trait. I've heard this trait, it might be broken. It's supposed to give you 2% to all damage per team member, self-included, so it gives you up to 10% in a full team. That's actually very, very good. 10% all damage in a team is a very nice buff. But I've heard this might not be refreshing correctly when you change maps, so it might only be giving you 2%, like if you go from a map where you're solo to a group, it's not refreshing properly. I don't recall if this has been fixed yet, but I still keep it slotted on the idea that they will fix this, Cryptic will fix this at some point. I am also running the Point Blank Shot trait. This is another trait that you can get from the Iconian episodes. Very nice little trait, and basically gives you a damage buff based on your range. So if you're within 6 kilometers up to 2 kilometers, you get a damage buff up to 10% based on the distance. So since you want to stay, within 6 kilometers for sure, and even you might not always be up to 2 kilometers, but you always want to stay as close to your target as possible to avoid the damage fall off. And so this trait just goes right along with that, giving you a damage buff the closer you are. Now, I also do like to run Anchored. Since this is a forward-firing build, I do often stop, and once I get into position with my forward-firing weapons, I do stop. And this, once you're standing still, this gives you a very good stacking all damage bonus. The only downside is that it also reduces your damage resistance rating for how long you're there. It does stack up 4 times, so it can give you a 20% all damage bonus, which is, again, quite good. But it does give you also a 20% reduction to all of your damage resistance ratings, which can make you quite fragile, which is why, again, I like to have a little bit of survivability into this build. So those are the personal traits. Now the Starship traits, I'm using All Hands on Deck. This reduces the cooldown on your Science Officer abilities and your Captain abilities. Very, very good trait. Triggers once every, I think it's once every few seconds. I think it's once every 5 seconds or so. You can get this reduction, and it triggers every time you use a tactical or a command bridge officer ability. You get this trait from the Presidio command cruiser, or the I'm forgetting the Klingon version. It's the tactical command battle cruiser. You can also get it on the Klingon side as well. The other trait I'm using here is Emergency Weapon Cycle. You get this one from the Tier 6 battle cruisers, so basically the Avenger on the Federation side or the Kurak on the Klingon side. This trait gives you a 20% firing cycle haste for energy weapons, very cool. And it also gives you a 25% weapon power cost for 30 seconds. Now this triggers every time you use emergency power to weapons. Again, like I said, we're going to be using emergency power to abilities because we have a lot of traits that benefit from it. So this should be up near 100% of the time because our emergency power to weapons will be up near 100% of the time. Now I'm also using Reciprocity. This gives you a minus 10% recharge time on your intelligence and tactical bridge officer abilities whenever you are missed. So that's why I like to have a little bit of defense on this ship, because every time an enemy misses you, you get this reduction. And this is very nice for minimizing the cooldown on your attack patterns and your beam fire at will, and also your intelligence abilities like override subsystem safeties. So very, very good ability. Now, as far as the other two, these are kind of flexible abilities. I don't have any of the really powerful ones out there that you can get. I don't have like Supremacy or, you know, and so on. I would be tempted, you know, if this were an escort or if I were going for a beam array build, I'd be very tempted to use improved pedal to the metal in one of these two slots. But as this, I found that I don't actually go around at max throttle, honestly, in this build, because it's a forward-firing build. I usually get into the position that I want to and then slow down and take advantage of anchored. So since that's the case, I went with more of a survivability traits here. So improved brace for impact, which is actually very nice. It gives you a big chunk of temporary hit points on demand when you use your brace for impact ability. So very good there. And then improved temporal insight. This one gives you a immunity to all damage for 4 seconds every time you, what is it here? Activating any hull restoring ability. So any hull restore ability will give you an immunity to damage. So nice little, you know, 4 out of every 45 seconds you can be immune. Again, just a little bit more survivability for the ship. There are other traits you could put in these last two. And yes, as you can see, I do have 5 starship traits. I did unlock the 5th trait. You can do that by going to the Fleet Research Lab, the Crenham Research Lab. And it's very expensive. I believe it's 250,000 fleet credits. So you definitely have to grind for this one, but very nice to have that 5th starship trait. And I also unlocked the 5th space reputation trait, so I'll quickly go through the space reputation traits here. I'm definitely using precision. This is a Romulan trait, very, very good, because it gives you just a flat out 4% crit chance, very good. I'm using the Dyson trait for advanced targeting systems, which gives you a 16% crit severity. Again, just flat out 16%, very, very good. I'm using enhanced armor penetration for the 5% armor pen, which actually goes quite nice, because as you know, disruptors also give basically a debuff on the enemy. The proc for disruptors gives you I'm blanking on what it's called here, but to target, you get a 2.5% chance to reduce the damage resistance rating for 15 seconds. So it's kind of nice. So you have your pen modifier on your weapon. You've got your disruptor proc, which also reduces the enemy damage resistance, and then you also have the starship trait here, which also reduces enemy damage resistance on their hull. So very, very nice, kind of a theme to this build where you can, you know, and then if you also throw in an attack pattern beta in there, that's a lot of debuffing you can do to the enemy hull and really, really enhance the damage. So it goes nicely with a disruptor build. I am then also using the 2 new Kara traits, the Auxiliary Power Configuration Offense and Auxiliary Power Configuration Defense. These are very, very good abilities if you run a high aux power, and in this build I do run a high aux power. It gives you a stacking all damage and accuracy based on your aux power, and then the defensive one gives you a stacking damage resistance rating and max hull hit points and shield based on your aux power. So very, very good traits, both for offense, and I do like this one for defense. Again, since I'm running anchored and I'm not in a cruiser, I do like to have that extra survivability from the auxiliary power config defense. All right, so that is it for now for space. For the active reputation traits, I'm using just all 4 of the active space traits here. Yeah, nothing special here, just all 4 of the space traits are active from the 4. These are the only 4 that you can get that are active abilities in space. And finally, let's take a look at the bridge officer seating. So we've got, so kind of an interesting build here, what I did. So I actually used the Lieutenant Universal as a science seating, and that is because the science, the only intel seats on this are hybrid with science here. So this Lieutenant Science Intel, I wanted to use both of these for intel abilities, and I didn't want to be without my science team or hazard emitters. So basically I used this as a science, the Universal as a science seat. Of course, you know, you could, this is the flexibility of the ship. You could put anything in here. You could, if you wanted to add in another tactical officer, although honestly this already has 6 tactical slots, which is quite good. I don't know that you necessarily need another tactical officer here, but if you did, you know, like if you put another Romulan in here, you could get another superior Romulan operative trait to stack, which could be good. But I did want to go here again. I didn't want to be without any science abilities for clearing debuffs, so that's why I went with this here, and then used the science/intel for the intel abilities. So here in the tactical, I am using a Romulan with the superior Romulan operative trait for the extra crit and crit severity, and I am running tactical team, attack pattern beta 1, beam fire at will 3, and attack pattern omega 3. And then in the lieutenant tactical, I am again running another Romulan with superior Romulan operative trait, and then in this case I'm running another tactical team and a beam fire at will. Honestly, I could put something else here besides the second tactical team. It's a little bit redundant, but it does. I do like tactical team a lot. Again, since this is a forward firing build, I want to make sure my forward shields are having as maximum uptime on tactical team as possible. So there you go, and a beam fire will too. In the Lieutenant Commander Engineering, this is very nice since this is Lieutenant Commander. This allows you to get emergency power to weapons 3, and Engineering Team 2, and emergency power to shields 1. And then finally, in the science/intel, I am using override subsystem safeties 1 and 2. It's a little bit unfortunate that it isn't a Lieutenant Commander, so you can't get override subsystem safeties 3 in there. That would be a very nice buff, but you do have to make do with just the 2 intel slots. Now, as you can see, I am running a copy of emergency power to shields and weapons. And that is because I am running a Drake build. So let me pull up my duty officers. And as a Drake build, the key thing with a Drake build is that you need to run your damage control engineers. And you can see I've got 3 of them here. They're actually only blue quality, but it seems to work quite well. The purple quality ones are very, very expensive. The blue quality ones are quite affordable, and it makes the Drake build work very well. What this basically means is with 3 of these, you only need to have 2 emergency power abilities, and they will be up nearly 100% of the time. It's not perfect 100% uptime, just because of the RNG involved, but if I click on one of these, you can see what they actually do. The damage control engineer will give you a chance to reduce time for all emergency power abilities, and it gives you a 30% chance to reduce the recharge time by 30%. And since I have 3 of these, you get that 30% chance, you get 3 rolls on that. And basically, whenever this procs, it reduces the cooldown time on both of your emergency power abilities. So basically you get 3 rolls per trigger to reduce the cooldown on both. And that's pretty close to, again, it's not 100%, but it's pretty close to almost 100% uptime on both of the abilities. That's the strength and why I like Drake builds so much. Not only are they a pretty affordable build because these damage control engineers, blue quality, are not too expensive, but then it also means that if you don't have very many engineering slots and you can only slot 1 copy of an emergency power to weapons and shields, it allows you to have them up nearly 100% of the time. And then, as we saw with all the traits that benefit from the emergency power 2 abilities and the engineering power, the EPS manifold ability, that just goes very well with having these emergency power abilities up all the time. Plus, the nice thing is that with a Drake build, unlike Aux to Bat or something else, with a Drake build, your auxiliary power is always high, which again, a lot of things in my build depend on having a high aux power, like the console, the disentanglement suite console, and also the Nukara traits. So it all synergizes well with this Drake build. So in addition to those, I'm also running Agent Nerul. Actually, Agent IL. Nerul is the Federation version, but he gives you a little bit of hull restoration when your attack pattern beta is up. I'm also using a Con Officer for the reduced recharge time on tactical team, and the buff that it gives you improves attack patterns for 10 seconds. Nice officer to have for sure, since I'm running a tactical team. All right, so that is the build. Hopefully that was informative. Now what I'd like to do is quickly show the customization of the ship, and which one's the customizer? Here we go. I would like to show the visual customization of the ship. Actually, before we jump in there, why don't I quickly show the Admiralty card that you get with this ship. So if I go down here, the Admiralty card is right here. So it is here's the Fleet Admiralty card. It is a very rare card, purple quality. You got 35 engineering, 60 tactical, and 22 science. So pretty good, pretty decent, you know, very, very good on the tactical and pretty good on the engineering, and not too bad on the science, but you can actually see it gives you +8 engineering and science per tac ship, which is a very nice trait. So it gives you, you know, if you slot this with two other tactical ships, you're getting 16 engineering and 16 science. So this is actually a very good card. The regular Mataw Raptor is right here. This is the C-Store version, and you can see what it gives you. It gives you +10 tac per engineering ship. Again, quite good if you have a real high tactical requirement on your mission. But this one comes with slightly lower stats, 30, 58, 20. So there are the Admiralty cards. Let's take a look at the visuals of the ship. Let me do this first. Let me turn off the Iconian visuals, just so you can see what the ship looks like out of the box. So here you go. This is a very, very awesome looking ship. Very true to the kind of the theme of the Raptor. How it has the kind of the upswept wings, the large nacelles with forward pointing, and very cool Klingon look. I've always liked the look of the Raptors ever since the Enterprise episode, but I think Star Trek Online, Cryptic has done a good job of kind of keeping the theme of the Raptors, even with these new ships that they've brought forward. So very, very cool looking ship, no doubt. I quickly go through some of the materials here. Here's the Fleet material, the Fleet 2 material, type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3, which I do like a lot. I also like type 4 for the dark tone. That's what I actually use with the Iconian visuals. I think this one looks particularly good. Here is if you've ever used a Tier 5U upgrade token, this is the upgrade skin that will unlock. And then the Veteran, if you are a Veteran subscriber. So very, very cool looking ship, no doubt about it. Not a whole lot on the customization. As you can see, it has basically nothing as far as changing the saucer or anything else. This look is what you get, but you can change the patterns. I can do a few quick randomizes here so you can see, again, the shape of the ship is pretty much set, which, you know, isn't necessarily a bad thing. At least, I mean, it would be nice to have some customization, but the ship does look really good out of the box. So we'll do a few more randomizers here, and just a really cool looking ship. And I think it does look great with the Iconian visuals. Especially with the dark Type 4 hull. Okay, so let's turn the Iconian visuals on. Now what I'd like to do is head out into space and just take a quick look at the ship stats in space, and quickly, yeah, just take a look at it there, because then the ship stats will calculate properly, and you'll be able to see, you know, what the ship actually looks like. And I will quickly show the turn rate as well. That's not good. Server not responding. All right, everyone, I'm back. Sorry about that cut there. I got disconnected from the server. The server lag has honestly been pretty bad lately, ever since they put in that patch to fix the lag when they basically reworked torpedo spread and Chemosite. Yeah, the lag has been really bad ever since then. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Something with that patch really messed things up. So hopefully that will be fixed soon. I'm just hoping that the lag will hold up for just a little bit longer so I can finish the video and go through a few runs and show you how this ship performs. But I did make it into space here, and you can see the ship. And here we go. So as you can see, it has the Iconian visuals on it. The Iconian gives it this nice little glowing deflector, and it adds those cool black and red highlights, which I think matches quite well with the darker skin. But now that we are in space, let's take this thing up to full throttle. Let's see how it turns. So here's the turn rate, which is, as you can see, very, very good. It's a good turn rate. Again, not quite up to escort levels. This isn't like a like a Fayette level of maneuverability. You're not going to be running circles, or like the Baltimore Raider or something like that. You're not going to be running circles around the enemy, but it is maneuverable enough to always bring its forward firepower to bear. That's the kind of the goal of the ship, and it does it well. Let's do invasive maneuvers. As you can see, in invasive maneuvers, you can that gets you to the point where you can run circles around stuff. So if you do need to get into a position very quickly, evasive maneuvers will do it no problem. Before I do look at the stats, let's also quickly look at the console here. This is the Heavy Disruptor Spinal cannons. Now, one thing that's really nice about this Spinal cannon, it does have a duration. So basically, once you start this thing firing, it will actually continually fire. Does it get the duration here? For 7 seconds. And it will hit, it's basically like an AoE. It's almost like its own built-in cannon scatter volley almost. It's kind of what it looks like. It does, so it fires for 7 seconds, hits 5 enemies up into a 45-degree frontal arc, and does a lot of damage. It is very good. It does have a 2-minute cooldown, which is kind of a bummer. But since they've added the passive bonus to where this gives you disruptor passive bonus damage, and that's up all the time, so that's still very good. So this console is still helping you out even when it's on cooldown, which I think is great. I do like that the buff that they added to this. So you can see it also does drain weapon power while it's firing. So it does act like another weapon, and it does but it also gives you Omega Weapon Amplifier, it gives you Plasma procs, so it is good. It does act like another weapon on its own. It's a little bit different than the other Spinal Lances, which are usually just like a one-shot deal. This thing actually has a duration. In fact, it's another interesting thing about it is it doesn't actually require a target. As you can see here, it's enabled. I don't have to target anything to make this go off. So you just basically, once you start this, it fires for 7 seconds, then you just turn your ship and kind of face towards the enemy and make sure they are in your frontal arc, and it will be hitting them, even if you don't have them targeted. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this thing, and you will see what it looks like. So there you go, full 7 seconds of, it's kind of a pumped up cannon scatter volley all on its own. Very, very awesome. I love this ability. I really like it. I like it a lot better than the other, just one-shot abilities. This thing with the duration and the AoE, it just spreads out massive amount of damage all over the place. So it's very nice when you can use it. Definitely one of the nice things about the Mata Raptor. All right, so let's take a look at the stats here. Now, first of all, let me just show a few things. So you can see my aux power is high, 97. Let me go back here. So let's take a look at the disentanglement suite. You can see it is, oh, it doesn't actually tell you. I thought it did. But it does, I believe if you have 100 aux power, it does max out the bonuses. So it should be giving a 2.5% crit chance and a 10% crit severity. And let's also take a look at the Nukara traits, because those also depend on aux power. So you can see the aux power offensive is giving me basically 4.9. If it was up a little bit higher, it'd be 5% all damage. That's a Cat 2 damage bonus, and that's very, very nice. And it also gives you the 5% accuracy, which is a little bit cool. Not that great, but still helpful. And you can see it also is giving almost a 20% kinetic damage and all energy damage resistance rating. Very good. And a 5% max hit point and max shield. And, you know, once my plasmatic leech is going and everything, that will just go up from there. Yes, so let's take a look at the stats. So we're in space. My shielding, this is with the Mark 14 Iconian shield, is about 12,000 force shield. I mean, again, not great. It does have kind of a low shield modifier. The fleet version does help that out, but that is what it is. You know, not quite a cruiser, but still, and you know, definitely not a science ship, but still better than escorts for sure. So it is a little bit more durable than your escorts. You've got I've got almost a 70K hull, again, quite good, and not up to, you know, the 90 plus hull you can get on cruisers, but still very, very good. Much more survivable than a escort. 102 bonus defense, that's nice, should help out with reciprocity. You see the resistances I'm working with here, about a 33% kinetic resist and 27-ish percent, 26.7% on everything else. Again, decent resistances. Bonus accuracy, 25%. And you can see what I'm running with a crit chance and crit severity. 26.4% crit chance. And 98% crit severity. I wish that were a little bit higher, honestly. I'd like to get that up over 100, but that's where it's at. The turn rate here is 32 degrees per second. Again, I'm at full throttle, so that is what you get. Not bad at all. And you can just take a look at the ship here. It is a fantastic looking ship, no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and do this disruptor lance again, just because it looks so awesome. And you'll actually see once it's firing, if something is in its frontal arc, it will shoot bolts directly at that target. So it has this kind of this random spray of bolts that go out, but it also actually does shoot bolts at the targets that it is hitting in its frontal arc. So very, very good. So now we've taken a look at the ship. We've gone through all the details of the build. Let's take this thing into some missions and see how it actually performs. First off, I'm going to take it into Argala patrol, and I will see you as soon as that is set up. All right, everyone, here we go. I am here in Argala patrol mission, and I have it set to advanced difficulty, just to crank it up a little bit because things die a little bit too fast on the normal difficulty. So let's go ahead and cloak up, and let's see what we got going on here. What do we got? Looks like corrosion. So in this first group, I'm not going to unload all of my abilities. I will do that in the next spawn here, but so you can keep them both in the frontal arc. Good, good, good. So when this next spawn comes, it's going to bring in 4 ships, and what I'd like to do is let's cloak up. What I'd like to do is position and unload the disruptor Spinal lance with all buffs and everything going, and we will destroy these things. So I'm going to start out by buffing up everything. Let's use some Nadion inversion. Let's decloak, open fire, and get the cannon going. And there you go. You can see this thing destroys. Made quick work of that group of Erogen there. And yes, the placate. That is the one thing I dislike about Erogen. I do really love having a kind of a thematic Klingon build here, because using the disruptors really does make it feel like a Klingon. Most of my other builds are all based around anti-proton, but it is nice to have a disruptor-based build here, and it fits really well with the Spinal cannon and the theme of the ship. And you can see it's a pretty tough little ship for a Raptor. I mean, again, it might not be a cruiser, but it's not bad at all. Certainly much more can take much more punishment than your average escort, that's for sure. And that's why I like to have Science Team, because these Hirogen like to placate you. Very annoying. So hopefully my Spinal Cannon, well, this is going pretty fast. I was going to say, I hope my Spinal Cannon is up for the final fight with the lead ship. But yeah, I really do like having a Disruptor-based build. It is a lot of fun to actually be thematic. I'm working on a phaser build for my Federation tactical character as well, just kind of for the same reason. Alright, here we go. So before we get into range, I do want to cloak up. And my Spinal Cannon is up. So let's see if we can get a good position on these guys. Maybe somewhere over here. Get that Hunter Escort in range. Alright, let's start buffing up. Let's use some Nadion Inversion, decloak, and activate. You can see it sprays out. It almost immediately destroyed those two hunters. Still working on the flagship here. It did placate me through part of that, which is very annoying, which is probably why it's still alive, because I did lose the target. But there you go. That is Argala Patrol in advanced mode. Did take a little bit of damage at the end there. But as you can see, it is a very, very powerful ship. Very amazing forward firepower. That Spinal Lance, or Spinal Cannon, I guess, is really amazing. When you slap an Nadion Inversion on, get that thing going, it really devastates anything in its path. Alright, so next up is a ISA. So I will be queuing up for that, and I will see you once I get inside. Alright everyone, here we go. I am in a pickup group in ISA. Let's see how this goes. As you know, pickup groups can go lots of different ways. Could be great, could be terrible. And there the board go, Tachyon beaming my shields away pretty much instantly. Wow, I took a lot of damage there. I already had to pop my console. So let's head over here to the next area. And get out of combat so I can cloak up. I'm going to focus on this cube up here. So this is a pug, I don't necessarily want to trigger anything early. Oh, it looks like they're triggering it early anyway, but I still do want to get rid of this cube. Oh, great. Yep, looks like they already triggered it, so I'm going to cut down here. I'm going to try to take out those other two generators. I'm going to go ahead and activate my Spinal Lance. Try to take down this transformer as fast as possible, because it looks like I'm taking a lot of damage, but we did get it down. That was close too. Those 99 spheres were almost in. We don't have any gravity wellers, it looks like, on this mission. As you can see, I'm taking a lot of incoming damage on this little ship. It can take a decent amount of punishment for a for not being a cruiser. And it is somewhat because I'm an engineer and how I have my build, but when you put out a lot of damage in a pickup group, you have to be able to take the aggro. It's just how it happens. Alright. Let's not aggro that thing. Let's get over here.
Resistance is futile.
I'm going to heal up a little bit here. Let's cloak up. Okay, good. My integrity field is back online for this side. I'm going to try to stay again out of range of the generators, just because I don't want to pop them early, which is very easy to do on this build. So I'm going to head down here. Let's head down to the transformer. Since those people are going to focus more on those two, I'm going to get these two. There we go. It's good I have most of my cooldowns back up here for survivability. Okay, let's get that. Let's get that. Let's do this. Medium inversion cannon. Get that transformer down. Looks like we should have this okay. Let's go ahead and put engineering fleet back on again, get a little bit more power here, and we got it. Now, if I was a little bit smarter, if they were gravity welling, or if we had a gravity weller on this, I might have saved my cannon for this group of spheres. That probably would have really padded out my DPS, but yeah, force shields are failing. This is not good. I'm taking a ton of incoming damage here. Shields are failing. I am out of cooldowns. This is not looking good for me. Please give me some invulnerability for a few seconds. Okay, I don't know how I survived through all that, but I did. I was taking a lot of aggro there. Yes, I know it is. I know I'm taking a lot of damage here. There's some Manion inversion and cannon. If I can get both the gate and the tactical cube in there. There we go.
Our defensive capabilities are unable to withstand us. Lower your shields.
Let's get here and get some flanking bonus here on the cube. Now when I do stand still, I am taking a lot of damage just because of stacking up on... once anchored starts stacking up, you really do take a lot of damage. But as you can see, that is the nice thing about an engineer, is that all them cooldowns is keeping me alive right now. And there we go. We'll give that a GG for sure. That was a lot of fun. That was definitely a pretty good pug. Didn't have a gravity weller, so we got pretty close on that first transformer getting healed from the nanite spheres, but still made it just in the nick of time. Alright, so let's head out, and I did run a parser on that run, so let's take a look and see how we did. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is let's head over and take a look at the parser. Just give me a moment here while I head over to OBS. I need to pull up the parser window. So hopefully you are seeing that now. And let's go ahead and analyze log. And there we go, infected space is coming up. All right, so here we go. Parallel, that's me. I got, just under 50K. So in that run, I got so 50K is not bad at all. As you can see, there was a pickup group. So, obviously it wasn't an optimal run. Like I said, if we had a gravity weller, that would have been perfect, because when you can, bundle up all them spheres and then unload with your cannon. Yeah, if we weren't so close on those transformers, obviously, I didn't want to lose the objective, so I used my cannon on the transformer, which probably isn't optimal, because it is an AoE ability. It'd be better to use that on the bundle of spheres if you really want to get optimal DPS. But even in a suboptimal run, this got 50k DPS, so I'm pretty happy with that. So that's the kind of performance you can expect. Now, what I'd like to also do here is just quickly do the combat analysis report. Shoot, you can't see that window, can you? Let me also bring this up in OBS so you can see it. All right, there you go. So here it is. And you should be able to see my full damage breakdown here. Let's go ahead and switch over to me. All right, so here we go. Here's the damage breakdown. We've got dual beanbag fire at will 3, of course, is the top DPS. So 18k of my DPS came from fire at will 3. Dual disruptor banks without the fire at will did 11k DPS. The fire at will 2 added up for about 5.7k DPS. The spinal cannons came in at 4.2. Again, I would expect that to be higher if used perfectly. If you get that spinal lance on 5 targets like both times, it really does really good DPS. I've gotten higher than that. So, but still, 4.5k DPS, 4.3k DPS is a very good contribution from a 2-minute cooldown ability. It just really is an amazing console. My cutting beam did about 2k. Disruptor beam array fire at will 3. Oh, that's the omnidirectional beam array. Okay, that did 2k. Plasma explosions did about 2k. Disruptor array, that's just by itself. The omnidirectional did 1.4. I'm not sure why pets. Whoops. Sorry, I just switched the wrong person there. I'm not sure why pets is showing up here. I didn't summon anything, did I? I didn't summon fleet support or anything. I'm not quite sure why it's showing pets there. I summoned the I summoned the Iconian thingamajig, the decoy. I'm actually not quite sure what that thing's called. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I did summon that. But I didn't think that did any damage. That only does. Whoops, I did it again. But I didn't think that did any damage. That just was a aggro generator. Oh, okay. Concentrate firepower. Someone must have had. Yeah, someone was running command. I wonder if that somehow was calculating into things. And yeah, I didn't have a gravity well. But there you go. That is the damage breakdown. So those heavy disruptor spinal cannons on a 2-minute cooldown, still giving you 5k DPS. That is really good. They are it's just an amazing console. And again, it even buffs your disruptor damage now, even when you're not, when it's on cooldown. All right, so there we go. That is the damage breakdown. So let's go on to my final thoughts here. My final thoughts on the Tier 6 fleet, Mata Raptor. As you can see, it is an amazing performer. I really like the forward firepower of this ship. I like forward firing builds. A lot of my builds are forward firing, like on my Avenger or on my Kurak, so I like that style of play. I also like beam squirts too. They are fun as well, but I prefer the forward fire. And with the Spinal cannon, this ship really lends itself to that forward facing build. And as you can see, it performs very, very well. 50k in a pickup group, it could easily go well beyond that in an organized team. Now, as far as advantages go on this ship, like I said, forward firepower I really like, but it has some other nice little things. I mean, just the fact that it's not as squishy as an escort really helps. As you saw in that mission, I actually took quite a bit of incoming damage. I'm kind of curious. Excuse me while I tab over to it, the combat STO combat meter real quick again, because I want to see my how much incoming damage I actually took. Because I took a lot of, this is a pretty durable little ship. Again, I'm on an engineer, and you saw my build, so I do build for some survivability. It's not pure DPS. And I am an engineer, so I have a few more cooldowns for helping out with survivability, but this is a pretty tough little ship for not being a cruiser. So damage incoming, yes. Let's see here, shield damage. Total damage, total heals. Total damage in 1 million. So I took 1 million damage in, hull damage in 646,000, shield damage in 393,000. So this thing absorbed a lot of damage for a little ship. So that's definitely an advantage. It's tough for a little ship, almost up to cruiser toughness, but not quite. And that really helps out because it helps you stay alive, which actually means the longer you're alive, the more DPS you can put out. So that's one thing I really like. And of course, the big advantage of this ship is the console. That Spinal cannon is amazing. The fact that it's a duration and it puts out massive DPS for a full 7 seconds is really incredible. Definitely, if you're going to play with this ship, I definitely recommend a Raptor build to really take advantage of that Spinal cannon and just use it and love it, because it's an amazing amount of burst damage. And even over time, even though it has a 2-minute cooldown, it still contributes a good significant portion of DPS, even in longer missions. I think the only disadvantages I would say about this ship is I'm a little bit disappointed that you only have the 2 intel seats. Without that Lieutenant Commander intel, you can't get OSS-3. That is a disadvantage. That's a little bit of a shame. Like the Fayette Intel Warbird, the intel seat is actually on the Commander Tactical, so you can get all the way up to Commander level intel abilities. So that's definitely a disadvantage of this ship, the lack of Lieutenant Commander intel. I think the only other disadvantage, it's not a huge disadvantage, but a lot of ships have this, but it only has 2 science consoles. I would have preferred, say, for example, like a 3-3-5 build, which would have been a little bit more ideal because you could fit another plasma proc console in there, which would have helped out a bit. That seems to, honestly, it seems to happen more on the alien type ships. Seem to have more science consoles. On faction ships, they really seem to skimp out on the science consoles, particularly lately. Like the Avenger only has 2. A lot of ships, a lot of the cruisers, just seem to only have those 2 science console slots. So that's probably the only other disadvantage I would say for this ship. But the advantages far outweigh that. It can put out a massive amount of DPS. It's an amazing looking ship. Visually, it looks incredible. Just all around a fantastic ship. Can really pump out the DPS, an amazing console. I guess the other disadvantage would be the trait is not too fantastic. It's very situational. Only if you're using beam overload or high yield would it even be useful. But even does have a little bit of versatility in its build with that Lieutenant Universal. You can you know, it has some flexibility, honestly. I really believe this would be also a very good forward cannon ship. You could really make a great cannon ship out of this as well. If they ever do kind of fix some of the shortcomings of cannons, like if Cryptic decides to buff cannons up a little bit to bring them up to beam level, you know, maybe reduce the fall off, the damage fall off from range in particular, that would really get me back into cannons, and I think this ship would be a fantastic cannon ship. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this overview of the Fleet Tier 6 Mata Raptor. A very, very great ship. I mean, just amazing power all around. And I definitely recommend getting this ship if you are a KDF character. In particularly the Fleet version really pumps it up a notch as well. So I really do like these old Intel ships. They've held up really well. The Fleet version in particular really brought them up to current standards. And in fact, honestly, I mean, I was really thinking about getting, you know, the Burrell that recently came out, but I was kind of disappointed in that pack. The ship stats just were not there for me. And honestly, a couple of the recent ships that have been released that have been a little bit disappointing to me. So instead of going for those ships, I decided to say, hey, I really like these older Intel ships. Why don't I invest in getting the Fleet version? And they've really held up well. Like the Mata Raptor is great. The Kib is also a fantastic cruiser. The Eclipse on the Federation side is still, to this day, a fantastic cruiser, especially the Fleet version. The Romulan Fayette Intel, I mean, what can you say? That's an amazing ship still to this day. So these ships have really held up, and the Mata Raptor here is no exception. It really has held up great. It can still, you know, compete with the best of them as far as DPS goes. So there you go, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this build video. Yeah, I will be bringing you more build videos in the future. I just did acquire a Zal heavy cruiser on my Romulan character, so I will at some point here over the holiday break do an overview of that as well. And speaking of that, since this is the holiday break, Christmas here is coming up, and I hope you all enjoy your holidays, and yeah, have fun on Star Trek Online. Hope you're enjoying grinding out the Christmas event. And oh yeah, and the Breen ship. I'll also be doing a review on the Breen ship because we're a little bit over halfway. If you've been grinding the Christmas event, you should be a little bit over halfway to getting your fleet project, or not fleet project, but your event project completed. So you should be a little bit over halfway if you've been doing the race every day, which means pretty soon we will be able to get our hands on that very nice Breen Resurrect Dreadnought. And I'll be doing a review on that coming up here as well. But that is all, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.